Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Founders Library at Howard University. Thank you for accepting our invitation to join us for this special occasion. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Wayne A.I. Frederick, the 17th president of Howard University, to the podium.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to the Howard University. This is certainly an auspicious occasion and one that I am extremely humbled as Howard's 17th president to participate in. I first want to start by thanking the Honorable Frank Kendall, the Secretary of the U.S. Air Force, for his presence here today, the Honorable Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of the Department of Defense, and the other dignitaries in attendance. I also want to take this opportunity to acknowledge my cabinet and deans who are here. And if you can stand so that we can recognize you, I want to thank them for their service here. And probably the stalwart of my board of trustees is here as well, Trustee John, so I want to thank her and recognize her for support. And there are many members of the research team behind the creation of this proposal, and I certainly want to take the opportunity to highlight VP for Research, Dr. Bruce Jones, who has been a major part of my efforts around the research activity here at the university. As you can imagine, for a proposal this complicated and this significant, we had several people participate. And my mentor, Dr. LaFolle, always used to say that you should not flout the prudence of singling out anyone for recognition, but I'm going to do that today, and I know that he would forgive me. Dr. Danda Rawat is the principal investigator of our UARC proposal submission. Ms. Pamela Clark from the Office of Research Development as well. She's not here, but I certainly wanted to take the opportunity to recognize her. And also Ms. Ross and Ms. Wallace. I want to thank both of them as well for their efforts as well. While the faculty are the backbone of the university, our staff are the connective tissue, and so we certainly appreciate their work. The American Council of Education president, Dr. Mitchell, couldn't be here today only because he was having surgery, and as a surgeon myself, I forgave him for that. I want to take the opportunity as well to also thank Dr. Gunja, the Executive Director of the Carnegie Classification Systems and Senior Vice President at ACE as well, for his support and for his participation with us. We have dignitaries from the National Science Foundation and National Institutes of Health as well, and I certainly want to recognize you and thank you. I want to thank all the members of the consortium of institutions who are participating with us in this. Last year, the Department of Defense and the Air Force announced they would be creating their first university-affiliated research center at a historically black college and university. The timing of this was very important because about a year before, I had started talking to my team about us trying to bring a national lab to an HBCU. At that time, that sounded audacious. To become the 15th institution to have a university-affiliated research center was nowhere close on our radar. I thought we would get a national lab here before we did that. The chosen school would not only be responsible for conducting their own research at the new center, it would also be responsible for building a consortium of additional HBCUs to participate in conducting that. Howard University answered the call for submissions, and I am proud to announce that we have been officially selected as just the 15th university-affiliated research center in the nation, and again, the very first one at an HBCU. I was with one of my trustees in LA last night before taking my red eye, and I was telling her there's several things I thought of when I became president of this university. And this one certainly is one of the few things that would represent a shining moment in my time here at Howard. The consortium institutions who will be participating in the UARC alongside us include Bowie State University, Delaware State University, Florida Memorial University, Hampton University, Jackson State University, Norfolk State University, Tougaloo College, and Tuskegee University. So please, let's give them a round of applause for their support as well. The UARC situated at Howard will focus its research efforts on tactical autonomy, which the Air Force defines as autonomous systems acting within delegated and bounded authority of humans in support of tactical short-term actions associated with a longer-term strategic vision. None of the other UARCs are providing this type of research to the Department of Defense at present. And so this center has the potential to close that gap and be at the forefront of progressive science and technology efforts. While the primary goal of this endeavor is conducting valuable research for the Air Force and Department of Defense, this center is also meant to help Howard and the consortium schools increase their own research capacity. Right now, Howard has a Carnegie Foundation research classification of R2, which is for high research activity. We're in pursuit of an R1 classification, which signifies very high research activity, and we anticipate that this center can move us one step closer to that very lofty goal. A $90 million contract has been signed to fund this center, all thanks to the U.S. Air Force and the Department of Defense. And this may be the largest research contract signed by an HBCU in our HBCU history. Congratulations to each of these HBCUs for being selected as part of this process as well, and we look forward to partnering with each of them as we work towards maximizing our research efforts and our relationship with the Air Force and the Department of Defense. It is with great pleasure that I have the opportunity to introduce our next speaker, who serves as the United States Secretary of the Air Force. The Honorable Frank Kendall is the 26th Secretary of the Air Force, responsible for organizing, training, and equipping the U.S. and Space Forces. In this capacity, he directs the Department of the Air Force's annual budget exceeding $173 billion, provides air and space forces to combatant commanders for global military operations, and is accountable for the welfare of nearly 700,000 active duty Guard, Reserve, and civilian airmen and guardians and their families. Secretary Kendall has more than 50 years of experience in engineering, management, defense acquisition, and national security affairs across private industry, government, and the military. Within government, Secretary Kendall held numerous positions, including Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition, Technology, and Logistics, as well as Deputy Director of Defense Research and Engineering for Tactical Warfare Programs in the Office of the Secretary of Defense. He's a West Point grad. He just told me that he graduated from West Point in 1971, and I was just a little bit shy about telling him that that was the year of my birth. But I mentioned that because in the same vein, I was also thanking him for his very, very great service and his stewardship of our nation's defenses. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the Honorable Frank Kendall, the 26th Secretary of the United States Air Force.
What Dr. Frederick didn't tell you was that I graduated from West Point when I was 7 years old. Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Frederick, for your remarks. I'm grateful to be here with you, with Secretary Austin, and so many people from Howard University, the Department of the Air Force, and Department of Defense who made this day possible. This is an incredibly significant and historic event. I hope it will be a great source of pride for Howard. I'm honored that the Department of the Air Force can have a small but growing part in the incredible history and achievements of this institution. I'd like to speak for a few minutes about how we came to this moment, why and how the Department of the Air Force is sponsoring its first University-Affiliated Research Center, or UARC. Howard people, you will get used to using acronyms and treating them as words, believe me, you'll get there. Will also be the Department of Defense's first historically black college or university UARC, and why the research focus will be on tactical autonomy. First, I'd like to recognize some of the many people and organizations that helped to get us here. Today, we'll establish the 15th operating UARC in the country, and the first one sponsored by the Department of the Air Force. The last one was created in 2018. It's not a minor event. As you'll hear, it comes with $12 million a year in research funding. Making this kind of commitment requires a significant effort. With support from the Congressional HBCU Caucus, several offices within the Office of the Secretary of Defense were instrumental in making this happen. These include Heidi Shue, the Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering, and her team, the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition and Sustainment, led by Dr. William LaPlante, as well as the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness, led by Mr. Gilbert Cisneros. I'm also grateful for the support of Dr. Deetra Trent, directing the White House HBCU initiative. Of course, we owe a huge thanks to the team from Howard and their efforts to make this partnership with the Department of Defense possible. Finally, I'm extremely grateful for the efforts of the Chief Scientist of the United States Air Force, Dr. Victoria Coleman, and to her team for continually pushing this effort until it made it across the finish line. Victoria brought me this proposal to create the New York, and she seemed genuinely surprised when I embraced it immediately. Victoria, next time, I hope you won't be so surprised. Let's give all of these people a big round of applause. What we are celebrating today directly supports two goals that are incredibly important to our whole nation. The first is the need to grow and diversify the pool of scientists and engineers throughout the country, particularly those contributing to our national security. This value is reflected in the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2022. It directs the development of the capability of minority-serving institutions to compete for federal funding and to support the Department of Defense. This support is intended to elevate a minority-serving institution to what is known as R1 research status. I look forward to seeing Howard make this next step. As the DoD researched the best way to pursue this goal, some important facts became apparent. HBCUs graduate 30% of African American STEM professionals, and more than a third of African American STEM PhD holders have earned their undergraduate degrees from an HBCU. But prior to today, at least, HBCUs received less than 0.5% of DoD research funding. Clearly, the DoD had historically not done enough to connect with such an incredible depth of talent, expertise, and potential. With this in mind, it was an easy decision, Victoria, to start our search last year for an HBCU to lead a consortium of institutions as our newest university-affiliated research center. While we celebrate today at Howard University, we also want to recognize the other institutions that will be part of this consortium. Dr. Frederick already mentioned them, but it's worth doing so again. Jackson State University, Tuskegee University, Hampton University, Bowie State University, Norfolk State University, Delaware State University, Florida Memorial University, and Tougaloo College. The second goal is for the United States to be an ethical leader in the development of technologies that support tactical autonomy. The research topic of tactical autonomy was also a relatively easy choice. Nearly every time I've spoken as the Secretary of the Air Force, I've highlighted the threat posed by the military modernization program of the People's Republic of China, and today is no exception. That modernization includes an expansion of nuclear capabilities and asymmetric weapons that can target American satellites, aircraft carriers, and forward air bases, as well as significant investments in technologies like autonomy and artificial intelligence that will be decisive in future conflicts. The National Security Strategy of the United States directs the U.S. military to, I quote, act urgently to sustain and strengthen deterrence, with the PRC, the People's Republic of China, as its pacing challenge. Deterrence is what the United States military has done so well for so long. The era since World War II has been the most secure, prosperous, and free in human history, although it is now being challenged by advocates of authoritarianism. During this period, there's been an explosion of democracy and development in a rules-based world safeguarded by the United States military together with our allies and partners. We deterred wars between great powers, we defeated regional aggressors, we protected human rights, and we fought terrorism. Today, that peace, prosperity, and freedom are facing more significant threats than we have seen in decades. That peace is under an acute threat from Putin's brutal and unprovoked war in Ukraine. We are also facing a long-term challenge from authoritarian actors, especially the People's Republic of China, with the intent and growing capacity to reshape the post-World War II era, the American-led international order. Together with allies and partners, we must deter aggression and coercion as we stand, and I quote from the National Security Strategy, in solidarity with those beyond our shores who seek freedom and dignity. My first task as Secretary of the Air Force was to lead an analysis of how to best provide the deterrence in a world with rapidly changing technologies. Deterrence is based on credible capability. Those who seek violence are less likely to take that path when they can see a credible and capable adversary. Let me also say and make it abundantly clear that deterrence is and will always be our goal, preventing violence so that disagreements can be resolved through peaceful means. As we seek to deter aggression, we must keep pace with the tools of coercion that our competitors develop. Tactical autonomy will be foremost among them. Future conflict will undoubtedly make increased use of autonomous systems acting with delegated authority from humans in support of tactical and strategic objectives. In developing these technologies, our focus will be on systems that include provide multi-domain situational awareness, reduce cognitive workloads, enable force protection, support cyber defense, augment logistics, automate maneuverability and mobility, and improve engagement efficiency. That's just for starters. The Department of the Air Force has worked over the past 18 months to lay out the capabilities we need for a credible deterrent. Tactical autonomy tools are central to those operational capabilities. If potential adversaries decide to use violence to attain their goals, our military must be able to quickly find threats at scale in hostile environments. We must get that information to decision makers quickly and assist in their ability to sort through vast amounts of data. We also must have resilient and potentially automated defenses to protect our people and networks, along with our allies and partners. And we need to provide support and sustainment in these hostile environments. Tactical autonomy will be a critical tool in this massive effort to protect and defend life and liberty. Importantly, the DAF is initiating a program of record to develop uncrewed collaborative combat aircraft as part of its next generation of air dominance, as part of that family of systems that we will field. Tactical autonomy will be at the heart of that endeavor. Tactical autonomy will allow us to deter and defend with less risk to human life. As we develop any form of autonomy, we will abide by ethical principles as we work to develop and encourage norms that promote stability, security, and compliance with the laws of armed conflict. The Department of Defense has adopted 5 broad ethical principles for artificial intelligence that serve as a useful foundation for any automated system. These systems will be responsible, equitable, traceable, reliable, and governable. Howard will assist in that work. The work of the United States military is profoundly important. We need a team of decision makers, researchers, scientists, engineers, and leaders who are committed to security and liberty and are excited to work on some of the world's most important problems. If those of us with the intent to preserve peace don't solve these technical challenges first, those with malign intent will acquire a significant and possibly decisive advantage. This is a momentous historical occasion for the Department of the Air Force, Department of Defense, and Howard University. You are about to add another chapter to the incredible constitutions this institution has already made to our nation. I'm so excited to have you as part of our team, united in our fight to deter aggression and support a free, open, prosperous, secure, and just world. Thank you, and congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming President Frederick to the podium.
And I believe I'm back here to introduce probably one of the most important people in this room, our cadet, Bria White. She's from School of Architecture. She'll be commissioned in 2026. And one day, we'd love to have her back here to announce Howard's expanding UARC as the potential Secretary of Defense. So I give to you, Cadet.
Good afternoon, everyone. As you've already heard, my name is Bria White, and I am a sophomore architecture major here at the illustrious Howard University. I am honored to be here with you all today for such an historic moment for both the Air Force and for ROTC. Sworn in as the 28th Secretary of Defense on January 22nd, 2021, Lloyd James Austin III is the principal assistant to the President in all matters relating to the Department of Defense and serves on the National Security Council. Secretary Austin graduated from the United States Military Academy with a Bachelor of Science degree and a commission in the infantry. He holds a Master of Arts degree in Counselor Education from Auburn University and a Master of Business Management from Webster University. He is a graduate of the Infantry Officer Basic and Advanced courses, the Army Command and General Staff College, and the Army War College. His 41-year career in the Army included command at the Corps, Division, Battalion, and Brigade levels. Mr. Austin was awarded the Silver Star for his leadership of the Army's 3rd Infantry Division during the invasion of Iraq in 2003. 7 years later, he would assume the duties of Commanding General of the United States Forces Iraq, overseeing all combat operations in the country. After a tour as the Army's Vice Chief of Staff, Mr. Austin included his uniformed service as the commander of U.S. Central Command, responsible for all military operations in the Middle East and Afghanistan. He retired from the Army in 2016 of April. Since his retirement from military service, Mr. Austin served on the boards of directors for Raytheon Technologies, Nuclear, and Tenet Healthcare. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the first African-American Secretary of Defense, the Honorable Lloyd James Austin III.
I got to try this to see if it works. H-U? You know? Right. All right. I could probably stop right there, right? All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. And Bria, thanks for that kind introduction. And thanks for making a commitment to serve your country. I am absolutely delighted to be here at Howard, and you can see why it's called the Mecca. Howard has always made history, and it's always been dedicated to scientific discovery and innovation. Howard was home to the first black female physician to receive a medical patent. It was home to chemists who worked on the Manhattan Project, and to mathematicians who helped our country reach the heavens in the space race, and to the surgeon whose research on blood transfusion saved countless lives on and off the battlefield. And today, Howard steps up yet again and stands proud. Howard becomes the first HBCU to host a Department of Defense university-affiliated research center. And so, Howard, once again, you're making history. You know, this partnership between Howard and the Air Force has been a labor of love for so many people here today. You heard us talk about Victoria, so congratulations. But I especially want to thank President Frederick, Secretary Kendall, Undersecretaries LaPlante and Cisneros, Deputy Undersecretary Honey, and Dr. Coleman. And it's great to see General Lyles here as well. For those of you who don't know, retired four-star General Lyles, he is a true hero. So if you don't know him, you probably ought to get to know him. And it really is great to be here with so many members of the Howard community, colleagues from across the government, and friends and neighbors from here in the District of Columbia. And I just left a meeting with President Biden and Vice President Harris, and they both send their congratulations and warm wishes. You know, America's scientists and engineers and researchers have always helped to keep our country safe. They've developed medical treatments that protect our troops in combat. They produce prosthetics that give hope to so many veterans and their families. And they've tackled 21st century security challenges like global pandemics and the climate crisis. And they've helped create technologies from supercomputers to semiconductors, the innovations that make our modern world and that still drive American leadership. And so today, as we work to build enduring advantages for our brave men and women in uniform, we must seek the latest innovations in science and in engineering. And that means building more bridges to America's outstanding STEM community. You see, we need your ideas, we need your creativity, and we need to draw on the skills of all of our people. You know, 30% of African American STEM professionals graduate from an HBCU. And they're the talent that our country needs. They're the leaders who can strengthen our national security. But as Secretary Kendall noted, only a tiny fraction of the department's research funding goes to HBCUs. You know, that just doesn't add up. And as Secretary of Defense, I'm determined to change that. So to sharpen America's technological edge and to strengthen America's outstanding military, the department is committed to investing even more in HBCUs and minority-serving institutions. And today we're taking that commitment to a new level. Howard's new research center will focus on tactical autonomy, and that's central to U.S. security in our changing world. Responsibly used autonomous systems make our military faster, smarter, and stronger. They can identify threats to our troops in real time, and they can help our technical crews conduct maintenance more safely. And they can equip our commanders with the best available information to make life and death decisions. So Howard's new research center will protect our most precious asset. And that most precious asset is our men and women in uniform. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States of America has the strongest fighting force in human history. And thanks to new partnerships like this one, we're going to keep it that way. That's the American way, and it's the Howard way. You know, scientific advancements don't just happen in a vacuum. Each breakthrough paves the way for the next one. Each advance opens up new avenues of discovery. And that's why our university-affiliated research centers are so important. These institutions have driven incredible feats of science and engineering, feats that have strengthened the U.S. military and, quite frankly, built a better world. And we couldn't be more excited for the work that we're going to do with Howard. The new research center is full of potential for the department, and especially the Air Force. Every experiment, every new idea, every innovation worked on here will lay the foundation for further scientific progress. And because this new center is a consortium, a total of 9 HBCUs will work with the Air Force under Howard's leadership. And that will help us build an even bigger and more diverse bench of next-generation STEM professionals and give them new opportunities to serve their country. Now, as you heard Bria say, I served in the United States Army for a brief 41 years. And there's so many different ways to give back to America. You know, some of the most noble and most enduring acts of public service have come from scientific experts who have used their ideas and their knowledge to make our country safer. President Harry Truman made that same point when he visited Howard some 70 years ago. He reminded the crowd of Charles Drew, a Howard faculty member. And Dr. Drew's research revolutionized the way that blood was stored and shipped. And that saved the lives of untold numbers of Allied troops in World War II. In President Truman's words, every soldier and every civilian who receives the life-saving gift of a transfusion from a blood bank can be grateful to this university. And President Truman added, quote, "Talent and genius have no boundaries of race or nationality or creed. The United States needs the imagination, the energy, and the skills of every single one of its citizens." And we still do. Ladies and gentlemen, with today's announcements, we're tapping into those skills and that imagination and that energy. You know, America is at its best when we knock down barriers and when we search for great ideas wherever they reside, and when we draw on the full talents of the American people, all of the American people. So to Howard and the other schools in the consortium, thank you for lifting up the next generation. Thank you for all that you do for our outstanding men and women in uniform. And thank you for making our democracy more secure. You know, together, we will harness the talent, the curiosity, and the passion that you can feel when you walk onto this campus or to any other HBCU campus. We will build a 21st century STEM workforce in a diverse, vibrant, and innovation ecosystem. And we will make sure that every patriotic young coder, mathematician, and scientist who wants to serve their country has that chance. And we'll face the future in the time-tested American way, and with the power and the purpose of Howard University. And we'll move forward together with confidence that we can tackle any challenge. And we'll move forward together to expand opportunity for every patriot who seeks it. And we will move forward together to defend the democracy that we all love. Again, congratulations and thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Wayne A.I. Frederick and Secretary Frank Kendall to the podium for a special presentation.
Just so the rest of the audience know what we're taking a picture of, this is a proclamation that was signed earlier by myself and the Secretary of the Air Force, Secretary Kendall. So again, I want to thank you, and I want to also assure you that the faith that you've invested in Howard will be duly returned. Thank you very much, Secretary.
President Frederick.
And just to close, again, this is a historic moment. I want to thank Secretary Austin and Secretary Kendall for being here, and all of you for joining us. We certainly will ensure that the faith that has been put in us will be returned. I think the work that we will do here will be work that you can be proud of. And this is not work that has just started. Howard University over the past 2 decades has sent more African Americans to STEM PhD programs than any other institution in this country. And we have a continued commitment to that. We have a STEM Scholar program that's underwritten by the Karshes, where we take in students from high school in undergrad on a track to going to a STEM PhD. We've had 2 cohorts now enter grad programs across this country, and they're doing fine work, winning awards, publishing in papers that I never hoped to even read, publishing papers in journals that I never hoped to read myself. And as a scientist, I don't say that lightly. I think it's fitting that we end on some of the remarks that have been made. I am the Charles R. Drew Professor of Surgery here at Howard University. I'm a cancer surgeon by training and still practice. The scientific discovery that must occur in a wide variety of people is absolutely essential for us to continue to be successful in this country. Some of our research labs in this country are made up of more than 80% non-citizens. And the investment in young African-American scientists is something that is in the interest of the nation's national security as well as the nation's prosperity. Nobody does it better than Howard University. I can guarantee you that. And this is a further commitment for us to continue to do it even better than we've done it before. So we appreciate the support. And again, I want to congratulate the scientists involved, but also our other HBCU colleagues. So thanks again for coming out, and look forward to hearing more from us in the near future. Thank you.